started with this song that went viral by Oliver Anthony. Now, you've probably heard the song a million times by now. I'm not going to play the song on here because of copyright. If it wasn't copywritten before, it probably is now because it's a viral sensation. So I don't want to take that risk. But I am going to read the lyrics to you because I think it is very important. Now, this is Oliver Anthony. So he wrote a song called The Northmen of Richmond. And for some of you, if you're not familiar with Virginia, maybe you didn't know what he meant by that, but Richmond is in the middle of the state, and north of Richmond, I'm assuming he's referring to Washington, D.C., right? Richmond doesn't get as much attention as you think it would. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of forgotten about because Northern Virginia, also known as Nova, gets a lot of attention because it's right outside of Washington, D.C. So most people are more familiar with like Fairfax, Alexandria, Virginia, that area. But he wrote this song and he made some criticisms in reference to the economy and class. And I think that what he said is important for people to hear. Now, there are some phrases in this song that people do have trouble with. And there are also recent accusations of him being a conservative plant, that he was planted there by conservatives to stir up some sort of outcry among the people. First, I want to play this clip from him here. He's actually responding to all of the excitement and sensation that has come from that song that he sang. So I want you to hear from Oliver Anthony first.
Y'all are crazy. Somebody just sent me a screenshot that Richmond, north of Richmond, is #1 on iTunes. And I don't even have words. I don't even know. So everybody's been asking me about shows. I've got one kind of last minute set up in Eastern North Carolina, Currituck, North Carolina, this coming Sunday, August 13th at the Morris Farm Market. So that's the Morris Farm Market, Currituck, North Carolina, August 13th. I'm playing from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. and I will stay until 2:30 a.m. if I have to. But I promise, if you show up, if you're willing to come and listen to me, I am willing to stay and listen to you. I'm going to shake your hand. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your story. And if you're more than a few hours away from Currituck, don't sweat it. Like, don't make this into a big trip. There's no rush with this. Like, I'm going to be playing a lot of shows, a lot of local venues. I'm going to take my time with things. Like, I want to get to know all of you. This is not about me. This is about you. And I can't emphasize that enough. And so it's going to take it. Things are going to be slow. Like, the social media is going to be a little bit slow. Like, things aren't going to just happen overnight because I'm not rushing into this. Like, I'm not rushing into a bunch of paperwork. This isn't about me at all. So, thank you for your patience. Like, thanks for not just totally jumping down my throat. Like, I saw a lot of comments saying, get this on Spotify and iTunes. And I'm like freaking out trying to make it happen. And, you guys and girls are awesome. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. And if you're around Currituck, North Carolina, I'll see you on Sunday. We'll have a good old time. All right. Keep sending those emails and those messages. They're not unheard. Even if they are unresponded to for now, that'll change. So I love hearing from you. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, so that was the response from Oliver Anthony, and I want to read you these lyrics because I think that it is important to hear what he's saying here. So you're probably familiar with this particular picture of him singing there. Here are the lyrics to Oliver Anthony's Rich Men North of Richmond. Again, for those just joining, I'm not going to play it because it may have copyright now, especially since the song is viral and we're not trying to go down that path. So let's look at what he's saying here. Let me go ahead and scoot this over just a little bit. I'll make it a little bit. Okay. I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for BS pay. So I can sit out here and waste my life away. Drag back home and drown my troubles away. This particular piece right here, I don't think is uncommon. I don't think it's uncommon for people who are working these long hours. When they finally get home, they're like, I'm just going to crack open a beer or a glass of wine and just kind of escape, right? But people working overtime, working all those hours, and the pay is so small. And it seems like you're still not getting ahead. And sometimes you're working overtime hours and you're getting like time and a half, depending on your job and depending on who you work for. It doesn't happen for everybody. Sometimes you're getting time and a half, but then sometimes when you look at the taxes that have been taken out, it's like, was it even worth it? So think about that. Precor says it's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an old soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just want to have total control. Want to know what you think, want to know what you do. And they don't think you know, but I know that you do. Because your dollar ain't shit and it's taxed to no end. Because of rich men north of Richmond. Let's talk about this piece right here where he says they want to have total control. They want to know what you think and what you do. Well, that goes into when we look at issues like Edward Snowden, we look at issues like Julian Assange, like the government wanting to watch us and wanting to know who we're talking to, who we're meeting with, having their hands in the back end of social media and seeing who's communicating with who, trying to censor people, trying to suppress information. Again, the men in DC is who he's referring to. And it's true. It's almost like we're all just in a bubble and we're just being controlled, right? Ants marching. I wish politicians would look out for minors and not just minors on an island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and this obese milking welfare. This is the piece right here that some people have a problem with, the welfare piece. Now, Midwestern Marks announced on Twitter that they are going to be interviewing Oliver Anthony, and maybe they will be able to ask him about what he's referring to here. But a lot of people see this and they think immediately the welfare state, right? They think, is he criticizing the welfare state? Is he saying that all people on welfare are overweight or fat or whatever? Don't know. We don't really know for sure until we hear from him. But he talks about the people in the street and they don't have anything to eat. Look at the escalating homeless rates. It just continues to increase. He talks about the miners. He's talking about the people working in the mines. And also, he said, not just the miners on an island somewhere. That's a reference into Jeffrey Epstein, right? So let's continue. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground because all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down. This piece right here, people have problem with. That if you're 5'3" or 300 pounds and 300 pounds, that taxes ought not to pay for your bag of fudge rounds. And let's talk about that for a second. One thing I will say is this: JB and I just had this conversation about wealth inequality and about being poor on RBN. Actually, just a couple minutes ago, we just finished that discussion. And I want to say this. It's not my place to tell people what to eat. It really isn't. But I think what I would say, if I talk to Oliver Anthony, I would say to him, you know, maybe we should be asking why people have to be on welfare in the first place. Why do people have to have food stamps? Goes back to the poverty issue, complete poverty. I think it would be also great if maybe when Midwestern Marks talks to him, if they can talk to him a little bit about MMT, about how money actually works in the government. But it's really not my place to tell people what to eat. But I think that's really not the issue. The issue is not what they're eating and their weight. The issue is, why do people have to be on food stamps in the first place? Because of poverty. Look at the grocery store prices. Every week this summer that I've gone to the grocery store, the prices increase every week. This inflation is a poor problem. And it's just continuing to get worse. So if your pay is not increasing, but the grocery store prices are increasing, obviously you're going to buy the cheaper items. Items like fudge rounds, the junk foods, the processed foods tend to be cheaper. The healthier items cost more. That's also a problem that we have in this country. Why does our country do this to us? Why are healthy options expensive, but junk food is cheap? It's almost like if you're poor, they just want you to eat bad food. Well, there's more that goes along with this. So that song really took off and went viral. And to me, I was just kind of like, I totally get where he's coming from about the rich men north of Richmond. They don't care. The politicians don't care about us. They care about their donors. They're tied to corporations. They're tied to the military industrial complex. The poverty crisis that we have in this country shouldn't even exist in a country as wealthy as the United States of America. But it does. Too many people at the top take so much money, or few people at the top take so much money, and most of us are at the bottom. Even some of us who think we're not at the bottom, when we look at what the billionaires are making, we're still at the bottom, right? Now people are saying that because conservatives embrace this song, and it's not just conservatives, by the way, but because some conservatives are supporting his lyrics and supporting his message, they believe he's a plant. Now, I want to bring up this article here from Variety. I want you to see this. Oliver Anthony's Richmond north of Richmond is an instant smash among conservatives, while progressives wonder if he's a plant. So I want to get into this a little bit here. Is viral sensation Oliver Anthony too good to be true, too right to be true, or an authentic working class hero, which is something to be? Since the Virginia native's Richmond north of Richmond song began taking off from out of nowhere less than a week ago, the Appalachian country folk singer has been acclaimed by freshly minted fans as a phenomenon of the people and accusers by detractors of harboring ugly right-wing attitudes or suspected of being an industry plant. Let me say something here for just a second. If someone's talking about struggling, being poor, not making enough money, the politicians in DC trying to have total control, what about that actually makes them a conservative? If someone's talking about the class issue, why would you automatically paint them as a conservative? Didn't Bernie Sanders talk about the class issue? Think about that. The suspicions of progressive music fans have largely to do with the vast numbers he's racked up as an independent artist with supposedly no industry backing whatsoever. The Richmond video, hosted not on his YouTube page, but that of a site that promises real music, real people, real culture, has racked up 12 million views in 6 days. The red bearded upstart has accumulated over 341,000 Twitter/X followers within days of registering on the site. On the iTunes download chart, he has the top 3 songs as of this writing and 5 of the top 10. And while paid downloads are hardly a solid measure of broad success nowadays, Anthony's breakout tune has cracked the top 10 on much more indicative one, Spotify's Daily USA Top 50. It's a phenomenon not unlike the recent rise of Jason Aldean's similarly right-rousing Try That in a Small Town, but with a literally friendlier face. His critics maintain he is punching down as well as up with the song's lyrics about the obese milking welfare, as well as the supposed fat cats in Washington, D.C. that are ostensibly the main target of the tune. What's known about Anthony, who has a minimal news or paper trail up to this point, comes largely through a YouTube monologue he put up a few days before releasing Rich Men. In that speech, he declares himself nonpartisan. Now, hold on to that piece right there. He declares himself nonpartisan. Because even those of us now, those of us who are registered independents, those of us who say we're not part of either one of these parties, have you guys noticed that's automatically a smear to be conservative? I get that smear. I sit pretty dead center down the aisle on politics and always have, Anthony says, facing the camera from behind the wheel. I remember as a kid, the conservatives wanting war and me not understanding that. And I remember a lot of the controversies when the left took office, and it seems like, both sides serve the same master. And that master is not someone of any good to people of this country. But if an artist is known by the fans they keep, the highest profile fans Anthony has quickly accumulated are very much on the right side of the aisle. Insta supporters like the former Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake, MTG, Firebrand commentator Matt Walsh, former Mumford and Sons banjoist turned political gadfly Winston Marshall, and far-right country figure John Rich, who said he has had long conversations with Anthony and offered to produce and finance a full album. If Anthony wants to prove the centrism he professes by picking up some less partisan public figures as fans, he may have his work cut out for him, given the way he's instantly been embraced as a hero to the right. And they show a tweet here from Kari Lake, who's supporting it. Goes on here to say, whether Anthony really is an ideologue in good old boys clothing remains to be seen. He has several other songs up on YouTube or TikTok, and he refers to pot a lot more than he does politics. When he does stick to social issues, he doesn't seem to like a political scientist exactly. The only 3 issues he addresses in his plaints against politicians are high taxes, welfare queens, and child trafficking. His focus on the latter, which is the sole topic he addresses in his YouTube monologue, has led to suspicion that he may harbor or represent QAnon views, since that is a key bugaboo of that movement, although he has been limited in how conspiratorial he has publicly gotten. So let's go on here for a second, because I have a couple of things to say. As it stands right now, do they actually have solid proof that he is a plant? Do they have solid proof that he is a conservative, or he has been put there by conservative? I have a couple of things that I want to show you. Now, this is a Facebook post from Anthony from February 24th of 2022. I want you to see this. He says, as an American, I support and stand with Joe Biden. He has changed this country for the better. Those who live off government assistance are parasites to this country. Joe is what a true American is, hardworking and not taking handouts. Those on the right who sit on their asses and complain about the left are not this country. A true Democrat is this country, and that is Joe. That's support for Joe Biden. I'm showing this because I don't think a lot of people have seen this, because this isn't on Twitter. This is on Facebook. So he supported Joe Biden. Again, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just showing you what I found. Now, that's something there to really, truly think about. Now, I ask you this. I think I'm missing a thing here. The squirrel. There's a squirrel account on Twitter. I don't know if you guys have seen this account. This account has a lot of followers. I don't think they follow anyone, but it's called @ZSquirrel. They found some receipts that they believe point to Oliver Anthony being a plant. I want to show you this. This is Z Squirrel. I'll make this larger for you guys and then I'll zoom in on the receipts. LOL. Some MAGA account just exposed the ginger bearded guy whining about welfare queens and high taxes as a conservative industry plant, astroturfed into existence by all the Daily Wire freaks and some right-wing social media promoter. Dan Bongino then confirms it. So let's see what they have here. I hate that you guys can't see it like this. I hate that Twitter's like that. But anyway, I'm going to read it to you. So this is from Lucky, the MAGA Hawk. It says, I didn't want to comment on all of this because Oliver Anthony seems like a genuinely great guy, but Matt Walsh's sanctimonious word vomit forced my hand. And I'm going to go right down to this part right here. Jason Howerton seems to be a key player involved in the astroturfing campaign. He's the CEO of Reach Digital, which helps media companies and political influencers grow their social media footprint exponentially. Jason was one of the first accounts heavily promoting this song as he provided a background on Oliver Anthony and his faith. Jason indicates that Oliver Anthony had been contacted to record the song. Jason also admits he even covered the cost to produce the record. So who wrote the song? And how did so many big right-wing accounts have the video ready to post simultaneously? You can like the song and like its message without gaslighting us into believing this was an authentic viral hit by a simple countryman with a mic and a guitar. Launch a product, get over 1.3 million hits overnight was the article Mr. Howerton shared on LinkedIn. This was another conservative Inc. AstroTurf campaign. And then I'll zoom in here. You can see. So this is Jason Howerton. That's who they're referring to. Okay. Now, let me go to the next one. Did I click on the whole thing? Yeah. Okay. So let me go to the next one so you can see the other response. The right-wing bro, everything is a psyop. The crowd fell for one of the most obvious actual psyops because, of course, they did. So you see, it says here, everything around us is fake. A guy in the woods pouring his heart over his guitar is real. That's from Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh knows this was high production value video that they wanted to make look simple and folksy and rustic. Just a forgotten man with his microphone and his guitar singing in the woods of Virginia surrounded by only his dogs. The entire concept was likely dreamt up by Daily Wire Con Inc. Laboratory. Let's go on. By the way, just so you know how the conservative movement operates, the only reason this MAGA account exposed this is because that right-wing social media promoter guy is a supporter of Ron DeSantis, they call him Ron DeSantis, and critical of Trump. If he had been pro-Trump, all of this would have remained hidden. And so it goes on here where they say, I love the right wing on right wing violence. And it's just people arguing about this here. But then apparently Dan Bongino blocked this squirrel account. So if I click on here, it's people arguing back and forth saying it went viral on TikTok. Lucky says Jason admitted that he produced the record. So there's a lot of people arguing back and forth over that. Let me go on here. Sorry. And then this Lucky account does comment and say, one disagreement with your assessment. I would have exposed the grift regardless of Jason Howerton's dissempery. Many huge MAGA accounts promoted the song too. I think Bongino is still a Trump guy too, but I don't really pay attention to him. Con Inc. grifts from all sides. And the squirrel says, okay, fair enough. And yes, of course, you're right about Con Inc. being one massive grift machine, though I would probably have a broad definition of what is included in that than you do, namely the entire right-wing conservative media sphere. So let me go back up to the top here. Because I just thought that this was really interesting. I'm making sure I showed the whole thing here. Go back. Yeah. I was just making sure I showed the whole thing. So here's the part from Dan Bonagino. Jason works with me. Jason is a great guy who texted me last week, blown away by the emotion in Oliver's song. Jason wanted help. He flew to from California to North Carolina to help Oliver get the message out. Yes, that's what he does. He uses digital platforms to spread the word, mine included. This moron below doesn't have a clue about what happened. Imbeciles like this one below, are what decimate our movement. They open their big mouths about shit they have no idea about while sitting on their fat asses criticizing the doers. F this guy. So, if it's true that Jason Howerton promoted this video, promoted this song, it is what it is. But I think, to me, I don't really care if it was promoted or not. That's the thing. Some people take issue because they're like, it went viral and they're pretending like it was authentic and it wasn't. It was promoted. Okay. But I'm focusing on the message in the song. And the problem is that the rich men north of Richmond don't understand us. They don't care about the people. They don't know what it's like to have to make ends meet. They don't know what it's like. JB and I were talking about this earlier. I remember a time when I was waiting tables. I remember going to work at Outback on E. This was right during the 2008 housing crisis. Going to work at Outback on E and hoping I could make enough tips that night so I could have gas to go back home. That was real. Do you think the rich men north of Richmond cared about that? That happens under a Republican politician. George Bush was president. But it happens under Obama. It happened under Bill Clinton. It happened under Trump. It happened under Joe Biden. The problem is they have the means and the resources and the connections that a lot of us do not have. And when inflation continues to increase, I don't care if you get a raise or not. You're paying more. And most of them don't know what that's like. And let's keep it real. And those of you who are listening, let me know. Let me know if you've been through this. Let me know if you've ever been to a point in your life where you were ashamed or embarrassed to bring people to your apartment. Let me know. Let me know if you were afraid to even ask someone out on a date because you didn't want them to see your place. Let me know if you know what it's like to live in an apartment and only have a couch. And you're trying to save up money so that you can get a bed, but you're sleeping on your couch. That's the problem. A lot of people don't know what that's like. I know what that's like. I remember what that was like. How many of you worked at restaurants and you were excited to go to work because you knew because you were an employee, you would at least get a free meal? Raise your hand. The problem is that was a couple years ago for me. Actually, more than a couple at this point. That was years ago for me. But that problem continues for a lot of people in this country. It continues. So what I wanted to show you, whether he was promoted or not, that is besides the point. What mainstream media is trying to get you to do is to focus on that and to focus on the fact that he may be a plant by conservatives or conservatives support him, so you should not like the song, so that you're not focused on the message that he's delivering, particularly in reference to the politicians in DC that have fat pockets and you don't have none. I don't agree with the statement that he made about the welfare people, but I'm willing to have that conversation with him and explain to him why I don't agree with that. But what I'm not going to do, and what some people are already doing, they're just like, oh my God, this guy, you can't listen to what he says. Some of the things he said in this song are the same things that Bernie Sanders told you when he was running for office, and you got all on board for that. They will continue to use right and left to keep us divided so that we're not paying attention to the class issue. Yes, the homeless rates are increasing. Poverty is still increasing. Rent continues to increase. Why are people paying thousands of dollars for studio apartments? This is a problem across the United States. There is no more move down south. It's cheaper. People are struggling down south too. So what was interesting to me is that some of the same people who supported that message, not the welfare queens part, but supported that message that he said, that Bernie said, now all of a sudden they don't support it because it's coming from someone who has been promoted by people on the right. And vice versa. Because some of the same people on the right who support his message didn't support that message when Bernie Sanders said it. And you know why? Because we're divided by red and blue. If it's on that team, we don't support it. If it's not on my team, I don't support it. I'm here to tell you to get off the team. It's time to leave these parties. This is how they continue to divide you. This is exactly what I was talking about. This is what they do. Great message about class, great message about wealth and equality, but it was promoted by conservatives, so ignore it. Vice versa. Great message there about healthcare, but it's coming from someone who might be a socialist, so ignore it. It's a problem. But Midwestern Marks are going to interview him, and I look forward to seeing that interview. I believe they said it's going to be September 9th, I believe. Have to double check. But it's on their Twitter, so follow them on Twitter. I've seen a lot of people talk about this story, and I wanted to wait until more information came out because I saw people just losing it all over social media when this song came out. And I've seen people talk about it in different ways, and I feel like the big piece that's missing, it's not even so much about who's promoting the song. It's about the fact that mainstream media is trying to distract you from the class issue that is constantly mentioned throughout the song. They're more willing to criticize Oliver Anthony. Have they spoken to Oliver Anthony? Have they interviewed Oliver Anthony and asked him what he meant by certain things that he said? They're more willing to criticize him than criticize the politicians who do have a lot of money and continue to screw all of us over. Something to think about. I'll take that comment on Rockfin, Eric. Whenever you're ready, I'll be there. Thank you so much for the tip, Roger. Congrats, Sab. Time to drive to get 25K more Uber customers to subscribe to Sabby. We are doing both Utah and Vermont. Yes. And thank you for this. The government sounds like a jealous girl or boyfriend. Want to know who you're talking to? Who are you on the phone with? I think they think we're cheating on them with the 80s communist Soviets today, Russian Federation, Cuba, and China. Of course, Sab, they want to keep us hooked on junk food and feed private health insurance and pharmaceutical complex. If he's smart, he'll stay away from political parties and politicians, I think you mean. Yeah, from politicians. Thank you so much for the super chat, Ravina. Folk and Americana artists write these songs all the time and nobody pays attention. This guy is straight up copying Tyler Childers and paid for followers and boosts. Hardly organic. Interesting point. Thank you, Perry. Anthony says a lot of good things, but we need to have a dialogue with him and people like him regarding choices facing poor people. Exactly. I agree with 100% about that. We need to have that conversation with him. Hugo, the problem with this country is because we are all We are always looking at our differences instead of our similarities. Yep. Thank you, Disco Phil. Too bad he has a confused view on most people on welfare. It dilutes the impact of the song. We should talk to him about this. I don't think if he's talking to Midwestern marks, I don't think he's opposed to talking to people, that may have different opinions. And thank you, Owie. Tribalism is going to be the end of America. This needs to stop. Our country needs to learn how to love one another again, despite our differences. I totally hear you. Totally hear you.